Yo, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of All In, where I'll pick a rock artist, I'll listen to the entire discography, and I'll give my thoughts on it. So the rules kind of go like this. The band in question must have 5 or more studio albums, and cover albums can count, but generally I don't talk about live or acoustic albums unless most of the album is original material. So, yeah, here we go. So, as I said at the end of the last video, this one goes way back. And as a matter of fact, the entire discography goes way back. Like, I would say like 90% of it goes before my time, honestly. But, yeah, so this week we feature Led Zeppelin. That's right. So, they have a discography of, how many albums is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they got a total of 10 albums spanning from their self-titled debut, this right here, in 1969, nice, all the way to 1982's Coda album, which, that one really is more of a compilation than a studio album. You know, it's got like, I think it's like outtakes and a couple different variations of existing songs. I guess it's like sort of a last hurrah for releases for them, but yeah, we'll get back to that there at the end. But anyhow, yeah, Led Zeppelin. So, my experience is listening to Led Zeppelin. Obviously, I didn't get to see them live, because the band had already broke up before I was born, or about the time I was born. And they did apparently reunite once, like, a few years ago. But, I mean, aside from that, they've, you know, like the members pretty much like went on with like other projects throughout like the 80s and 90s and beyond. So it wasn't like they didn't stay. It wasn't like they weren't busy after the Led Zeppelin era. But yeah, I remember. I don't remember exactly the first time I heard them, but I heard my dad play them a lot. It's kind of a similar story to the band Rush as far as how I got into them. Just my dad playing them all the time, you know. He's had, I don't think he had any vinyls of them that I remember, but I know he had like a couple 8-tracks of them and everything. But yeah, they were in heavy rotation in my dad's playlist. I'll just say that. But I kind of grew to like them, you know. It's one of them, to me, Led Zeppelin music is almost like timeless childhood memories. Like, you know, like, I can classify this with, like, older Rush and, like, CCR, you know, them type of bands that he used to listen to back in the day. Bring! Anyhow, getting to the albums. So, as I said, their self-titled album, Led Zeppelin, their debut, 1969, nice. So, we start off with Good Times, Bad Times, very popular song. You got Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You, which is kind of a bluesy song. You Shook Me. You got Dazed to Confused, which I always thought that was a cool song. Kind of like almost like a trippy song, if you will. Your Time's Gonna Come. You got Black Mountainside, Communication Breakdown, which I would say is like the heavier track of this album. I Can't Quit You, Baby, which is, again, more bluesy. And then they end it with How Many More Times, which is like 8.5 minutes long. But I would say, like, probably half of this album is like real bluesy, sort of, you know, not real heavy, but like real, you know. I would say like heavier rock didn't really start till maybe like 1970. This kind of predates it a little bit. But Communication Breakdown, that was kind of like on the way to that era, you know. But yeah, definitely a solid album. I like it. So then we move on. In the same year, 69, again, nice, Led Zeppelin 2. So, yeah, the sophomore album. So you got Whole Lotta Love. I always thought that was a cool song. What Is and What Should Never Be. You got the Lemon Song, which, if you would listen to the lyrics of, I would say this is like the Horny album, just based on the lyrics of every song here. Like the Lemon Song, if you listen to the lyrics, yeah, you'll get it. You got Heartbreaker, which is popular. Living Loving Maid, She's Just a Woman. You got Ramble On, another popular one. Moby Dick. And then you got Bring It On Home for the last track, clocking in at 4:20. nice. But here again, like I was saying last week with Slipknot, they were sort of starting to evolve here with every album in the early stages here. So still in the 60s here, still in psychedelic times. Definitely a great album. So then we move on to 1970. We have Led Zeppelin 3. So here we have the Immigrant Song. Love that song. I would honestly, dare I say it, Immigrant Song's probably my favorite Led Zeppelin song of all time. I just never get sick of that song. You got the song Friends, Celebration Day. I like that one too, but it wasn't really a big hit or anything. You got Since I've Been Loving You, Out on the Tiles, another good one. Gallows Pole, Tangerine, That's the Way, Run Your Stomp, Hats Off to Roy Harper, and here again, great album. I love it. I love every track on this album. So far the first three, recommend them. So then we move on to 1971. They call it the Untitled Album, but it's commonly known that many people just call it Led Zeppelin 4. So here's where I think they were really starting to hit their stride. So you have Black Dog, which is real popular. You got Rock and Roll, another popular one. The Battle of Evermore, Stairway to Heaven, which, yes, very popular song. Arguably their most commercially popular song. But I would categorize that song as one of those that it gets a tad bit overplayed. Like some of these popular bands, like you have Enter Sandman by Metallica. You got Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. You got, like, Freebird. Like, I would classify this song with those as far as, like, the fact that they're very, very overplayed. But, I mean, still not a bad song. If it wasn't so overplayed, it'd be, like, a lot better, I think. You got Misty Mountain Hop, Four Sticks, Going to California, which was popular, When the Levee Breaks, and just about all these songs could have been a hit. So I feel like Led Zeppelin 4, I feel like that's where they hit their stride. They really hit their stride on this one. Okay, so then we move on to 1973's Houses of the Holy. And I know you can't see it, but the album cover, it looks like it has a naked bare woman's ass. Now, YouTube can't cut me out for that because I'm not showing it, so But anyhow, another good one. I feel like they started to get a little mellow right there. I think their heaviest so far was Led Zeppelin 4. Here they kind of started to get a little bit mellow here on this one. So as far as the tracks go, the song remains the same. Great tune. You got the Rain Song, Over the Hills and Far Away. The Crunge, Dancing Days, which, if you've heard it a lot in the 90s, you may have heard the acoustic Stone Temple Pilots version of it. You get Dryer Maker, No Quarter, which Tool actually redid that one. And then you end it with The Ocean, another popular one. And all in all, another great album. I can't hate on it at all. And in case you're wondering, no, the song Houses of the Holy is not on this album. But I'll get to that here next. So, we move on to Physical Graffiti. And this one here is actually a double album, which I do have it on physical right here. You can see it's a double disc set. I don't know how well you can see that with the ring light. But yeah, another good solid album. So, here you have Custard Pie, The Rover, I like that song. My Time in Dying, here it is, Houses of the Holy. So, this is my question. Was the song Houses of the Holy supposed to be a track on Houses of the Holy album, and then they scrapped it and then brought it onto this album? That's what I want to know. It's kind of weird how, like, you hear a track that sounds like a title track to an album, but it's not. I don't know. Then you have the ever so popular track Kashmir, which I remember in the 90s, like, P. Diddy did like a cover of it. And then you have, you move on to the disc 2, In the Light, Brun Your Hour, I guess it's called, R. Down on the Seaside, 10 Years Gone, which is pretty good. Night Flight, The Walton Song, Boogie With You. You got Black Country Woman, and then we end it with Sick Again. And here again, another good solid one here. Didn't hate a track on it. So then we move on to 1976's Presence. And this is where I feel like they started to get a little more, I don't know. I kind of wasn't into these last couple as much, to be honest with you. But you got Alaka's, or is it Achi's Last Stand? I hope I pronounced it right. You got For Your Life and Royal Orleans with Paige Plant and Ron Paul Jones and John Bonham. Then you have Nobody's Fault But Mine, Candy Store Rock, Hot Soul in the Nowhere, and you end it with T for One. So this album was sort of meh. It was hit or miss for me. So then we move on. We have 1979's In Through the Outdoor. And the cover here kind of looks like they're in a bar, like out in somewhere in the West, like in the Wild West. So here we start off with the track In the Evening. Not a bad one. You got Southbound Swallows. And then you got Fool in the Rain, which very popular track, but not really my favorite. I feel this one was sort of a little overplayed too. Then you got Hot Dog. It's Carousel Alhambra, I believe it is. And then All My Love, which was, I would say, the most popular track off of this. And then they end it with I'm Gonna Crawl. And here again, sort of like Presence, it sort of fell off for me. And then we end it with 1982's release, Coda. And this one here is kind of more of a, like, outtakes and, you know, different versions of existing tracks. So here we have We're Gonna Groove, Poor Tom, which apparently is an outtake, I Can't Quit You Baby, which is a live version. We have Walter's Walk, which is an outtake. Ozone Baby, which is an outtake. And I believe Ozone Baby was a track on Physical Graffiti. I'd have to look. Oh man, I'm looking. No, it's not on this album. It's on one of those late, kind of mid to later albums. You got Darlene, which is an outtake. You got Bonzo's Montrex, and then Wearing and Tearing to end it. Oh yeah, it says right here, going back to Ozone Baby, In Through the Out. Yeah, it was part of In Through the Outdoor. Okay, it's part of those sessions. But yeah, here again, I mean, I would say the last three are just kind of mediocre. It's like after Physical Graffiti, for me, it just sort of dropped off a bit. But as far as rating them, how do I want to split this off? Do I want to do it all in one, or do I want to split it off into two categories? Screw it, we'll do it as one. I mean, to me, like, it's all timeless, so I wasn't around to, like, hear them get released, you know? It was all there when I remembered, so we'll just do it as one era. So, as far as their best album, oh geez, this is going to be a toughie. Okay, so I'm torn between Led Zeppelin 3, Led Zeppelin 4, and Physical Graffiti, as far as the top one. But I don't know, judging by the popularity of all the tracks on Led Zeppelin 4, I'm going to have to go with that one. I would say that's where they really hit their stride. Led Zeppelin 3, definitely a close second. Physical Graffiti, a close third. All good albums. Now, as far as my least favorite, I'm going to say In Through the Outdoor. Not really a fan of it. But, I don't hate it, but I wouldn't go out of my way to listen to it. Oh, I almost forgot to mention the song Traveling Riverside Blues. Very popular after it was released. Played all over classic rock radio. It was actually a Robert Johnson cover. And Led Zeppelin recorded it back in 1969. Nice. But it didn't get released to the public until Led Zeppelin released their box set in 1990. And for years, I always thought it was something that was, released back then. I didn't realize it was like a newer release, despite it being an old recording. But another damn good track. Should have been on one of the albums, I feel. But it definitely became a big hit, for sure. But as far as what happened after the demise of Led Zeppelin, it wasn't like everybody disappeared. I mean, you had Robert Plant went off and did his own thing. He did like 4 solo albums that had a few decent tracks to it, a few decent hits, spanning throughout the 80s and in the early 90s. And then I got to give mention to this album, Coverdale and Page. They got together and did this album back in 93. Though the hair bands were pretty much done by that year, it still sort of has that feel to it. So if you want like an obscure type hair band type album, definitely check this one out. Coverdale from Whitesnake, mixing with Page from Led Zeppelin. Not bad. And then, moving on to the 90s, you also have Page and Plant getting back together. They did an album of acoustics, and then the second album they did was actually original material to that time. But, still, it had a couple singles, but, it didn't really catch on like the original Led Zeppelin stuff did. And even Bonham was doing his own stuff too, so, it wasn't like these guys weren't keeping busy. But yeah, that's kind of my final thoughts on that. So, next episode, you feeling like a freak on a leash? Tune in next week.